Alrighty, I know. I'm 8 minutes late. I am Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now and the National Hockey Now YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us both here on YouTube and the Facebook channel. Hi, Facebook people. It's been a crazy morning at Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Several interviews and some business stuff to take care of. Let me tell you what we're going to talk about today. Obviously, the fallout. I feel like we were a couple days ahead, but maybe I should have been even further ahead and should have been kind of sounding the alarm a little bit on Harrison Brunicke, who had a very good prospects challenge in Buffalo. He said, hey, this kid has some John Marino in him. Well, little did we expect by the end of training camp and preseason, he would have a lot of rookie John Marino in him as he's making a roster charge. We'll talk about that, which really I thought came to the fore on Tuesday night, and then the fallout, because there's a unique situation that could exacerbate, both in a positive and negative way, the Penguins situation. We'll, of course, talk about the rest of the kids. That includes Owen Pickering, who in reality is also, I think, genuinely pushing for a job if the situation were a little bit different. And I still think the Penguins might say, you know what, let's just do it. So we'll talk about Pickering and that fallout. Alex Nedeljkovic released about an hour, or the news released about an hour ago. Check it out on Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Nedeljkovic is out week to week with a lower body injury. Boy, that just scrambles the Penguins' goaltending situation in some very debatable ways. Will it be Joel Blomqvist? Will it be Philip Larson, who slides in behind Tristan Jarry? So we're going to talk about the fallout from that. I'm also going to be a little bit irresponsible. I know this is what you all live for. I'm going to be a little bit irresponsible, and we're going to talk about ways to create space for the kids like Brunicke. I see one very obvious way that would just be one of those blockbusters. Whenever something's too perfect, it never happens. But I'm going to go there. I don't think I'm going to write about it in quite such blunt terms, but it's possible. Hey, is the sound okay? It sounds good in my ears. And I'm going to assume, since no one's complaining yet via YouTube or Facebook, that we're going to plow ahead and everything sounds just peachy and fine. So, as always, this is a Penguins live chat. That means I talk and you communicate there via the message boards and everything else as well. So, that's how we do this. This is not me pontificating, just unabated for however much time we do this. This is, you and me having a conversation. So let's start with this guy. Wait, no, that's McGrory. No, I don't want to start with him. Let's start with that guy. I don't know what's up with the hair and the mustache in that photo of that's last week. That's I assure you, Harrison Brunicke does not have that kind of a cheesy stash and kind of the Mr. Cotter hair going on right now. He had, listen, I don't think there's any other way to say it. He had the game of his life on Tuesday night. It would be difficult to say he could have played any better. We've been telling you how smooth he skates, and like his blades don't cut into the ice. He sort of just hovers on top of the ice sheet and gets to wherever he needs to go, whether it's forward, whether it's backward. And you saw it last night. Let me check my notes here if you really want to dive into it. I guess the 13-minute mark. Something like that. Brunicke pushed the issue at the offensive blue line. But then Detroit countered. It was about to be like a 2-on-1. But Brunicke literally gained on the forward, passed him, and caught him and kind of cut him off at the blue line. nullifying the play along the wall. It was, I think that's, I'm sorry, that was at 1:34 of the first period. He did that. Just kind of unbelievable how he got back. And then, of course, the goal was at 1:34. That nice play was at 6 minutes. See, the point being that Brunicke, I thought, was the most dynamic player on the ice, not just for the Penguins, but also for the Red Wings. He was the guy last night. He was pushing the play. Talked to Marcus Pettersson after the game, and Pettersson had to give me a little ribbing. I said, "Man, I hate to ask you all about somebody else," but he's like, "Yeah, and I'm mad." Kind of got in my face. People looked. I'm like, no, it's cool. We're goofing around. Everybody relax, as he's laughing. But what Pettersson said was, most young defensemen kind of just play the puck, play it away quickly. Don't make a mistake. It comes near them, just play it away. Play it to the forwards, play it to the other defenseman. Get the puck away from you. That way you're not noticed. That way you don't make mistakes. What makes Brunicke very different, what Pettersson said, I thought this was really insightful, is that Brunicke wants the puck. He said he wants it all the time. He wants to make plays, and that's fun to play with. And I'm like, oh, now this just got really interesting. I mean, listen, I had my own opinion on Brunicke. Watching the game, I had my own opinions. I did tweet out that the Penguins should make space for at least a 9-game, I don't know what they officially call it. We'll call it the 9-game tryout, because after those 9 games, if you keep the player, then the entry-level contract kicks in. Otherwise, you can send them back to junior before the expiration, and, no harm, no foul. But when Pettersson's saying he's fun to play with, he wants the puck, he always wants to make plays, and noticing how he's defensively responsible and able to get back against good competition, very good competition Sunday against Ottawa. I mean, he took a beating. There's no question. Ottawa was trying to pulverize Owen Pickering and Harry Brunicke. So they held, they stuck to their guns and played really well. That's what I asked about and wrote about on Monday. Well, Brunicke took it to a whole nother level on Tuesday. And here's where the situation now gets really interesting. By the way, like and follow, subscribe, share this out to your followers and everybody else. Let them know that we're doing this. What makes the thing very interesting is Erik Karlsson and his status. Karlsson, upper body injury, just resumed skating on Tuesday. I don't yet know, because I'm not at practice, obviously. I had, like I said, some meetings this morning, and we were writing and taking care of business. Shelley is at practice. The thing with Karlsson, Sullivan seemed to indicate that he was confident they would have Karlsson by the start of the regular season, but he also threw in this just cryptic little caveat. He's like, it's been my experience that players of Karlsson's level don't need a lot of repetitions to be ready. And even if they're not 100%, they're still pretty good. You're like, wait a second now. What are you saying here, Mike? Are you saying that Karlsson could start the regular season not at 100%? And all of a sudden, the seas part, the sun rises, all, the heavenly light shines upon Harrison Brunicke. Well, if Karlsson's not going to be 100%, the power play is clearly doing just fine without Erik Karlsson. They're moving the puck with ill intent. They are moving the puck to dangerous spots, and they're doing so with aggression. And it's like, this is the Penguins' power play. This looks pretty good. This is competent. The whole new scheme. I should break that down for you if you want as well. I could probably pull up some screenshots from NHL.com if they've posted any highlights, but I can show you kind of how they're pinching from the walls toward the net, kind of choking off the PK, forcing them to scramble and make decisions. Anyway, getting back to Brunicke and Karlsson, well, there's your temporary space. And it just might be the perfect sort of elixir to give Brunicke 4 or 5 games, see how it goes. And then, well, then everything, all bets are off if he continues to play this well. I'm wondering if you're going to pick up on my brainwaves, because I see something on the NHL landscape, and I'm going to hold that off until after we get through the other things I wanted to talk about. Because I don't want to jump into the irresponsible stuff until you all have a chance to ask your questions and the like. And if someone's going to, if one of the bloggers are going to watch this, I don't want them stealing the good stuff from the first 5 minutes. All right. So that's how we're going to do that. Let me jump to the first question here. Michael, Dan, quick question. I live 30 minutes from Philly. I'm going to see the Pens opening night. It's about a 5-hour drive. Okay. I want to take my fiance out for a nice dinner. Any spots that I know of? Okay. I assume you're talking about dinner before the game, not like dinner the night before. Very different answers, because the reality is there's not a whole heck of a lot around the arena yet. I think in a couple years, the answer might be different, but there's really nothing on that 5th and Forbes corridor other than Duquesne University. There's Moonlight Burger, which is it's a decent burger. There's Milano's Pizza. There's a barber shop. There's Pizza Bosa. The Super Bowl, which I definitely, if you're talking about a nice dinner, you do not take your fiance out for a nice dinner at the Super Bowl. That is they weren't even open last night. They've been closing before, like at 10 o'clock they close. Like, how do you close a great dive bar before 10 o'clock? I digress. I don't know. Let me see here. Tell you what, take her to the William Penn. They've got, a little place in the basement. They've got a nice little bar that's, really eclectic and cool. And they've got a nice restaurant. Or even the Warren. Take her to the Warren. You can walk up from there to the arena just about 5 minutes. Jacob. Oh, Jacob's answering. The taco place? No. Nikki's Thai isn't bad. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Nikki's Thai. But that's probably a 15-minute walk from Nikki's Thai on Penn Avenue up to the arena. There. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, now I was going to start talking about restaurants. You definitely want to be in the city. Okay, so we've kind of laid the groundwork for Harrison Brunicke. Let me talk about the other guy. And I don't know why it keeps. Let me see if I can fix this. That's a picture of Owen Pickering, all stretched and distorted, and I don't get why. Anyway, Owen Pickering, I thought was better than Brunicke on Sunday night. That's not to say Brunicke was anyway bad. I just thought Pickering had his breakout moment on Sunday night against Ottawa when he was really engaged. They were hitting him as hard as they could, and he was fighting by the net. He was moving players. He was jumping into the rush. He was getting back on defense. I mean, I've noticed a couple little tweaks he could make in terms of his positioning. But good Lord, he was more engaged than, say, Ryan Graves. I think he certainly got a much higher ceiling than, let's say, Ryan Shea, Sebastian Aho, the guys you would plug into the third pairing left side. And I'm wondering the same thing about Pickering. Should the Penguins make space for Owen Pickering? You do not want Pickering as a 7th defenseman in the NHL. No. You would want him as the 6, playing with Jack St. Ivany on that third pairing. The question is, why not? Will Kyle Dubas and Mike Sullivan have the courage? And make no mistake, it's straight up courage to go with 1 or 2 rookie defensemen at the start of the season. any coach, any team. Don't give me the Mike Sullivan trope that, is just, it's so tired at this point. Moving past that, any rookie defenseman has to prove his case beyond a shadow of a doubt. I don't know that Pickering has proven his case beyond the shadow of a doubt, but he's coming close at this point. Another game or two, let's say they go into Columbus on Thursday night. That's tomorrow. Jeez. They go into Columbus tomorrow. And Pickering has another A-plus sort of game. Now, I was talking with Ryan Graves, and I talked to Mike Sullivan about Ryan Graves, and sooner or later I'm going to get that stupid story written. But I'm also wondering about Owen Pickering leapfrogging Graves. It would be fraught with consequence. Make no mistake. I know your first reaction. I know you well enough. You're like, yes, do it, for a multitude of reasons. Whether you want the young kids in the lineup, whether you don't like Ryan Graves, whatever it might be. I know your knee-jerk is to jump all over this, but here's the problem. The fallout, the consequences of putting Owen Pickering in the lineup or on the NHL roster. Now you've just sent a signal to every other team that Ryan Graves isn't one of your 6 or 7 best defensemen. Yikes. Not that he has trade value until he proves it in the regular season. And even so, that contract is still an albatross. That's not his fault. If you do that to Graves at the start of the season, well, now you're stuck with him for the entirety of 5 years. He signed a 6-year deal. This is year 2. If you do that to Graves, now you've basically destroyed any possible trade value. So that's something to consider. That's the business side, sometimes bleeding over into the personnel side. And that's why I'm not confident that Pickering would make the NHL roster. Different circumstance, different situation, different team. I think he'd be a 95%er. So let me jump back to the questions here. Oh, take her to Gaucho? Yeah, I guess. Can I tell you guys all something about Gaucho before I get to the hockey questions? Gaucho Perea there downtown. It's one of those places all the Zoomers love, and it has this great reputation. Yeah, I've eaten there enough times to not eat there very often. It's just a bit kind of overrated, but people who love it just love it. Okay, let's see here. Wi-Fi, that's that's who you're referring to here, Cal. Wi-Fi is my dream get if the Habs trade a D-man. Why? We're talking about all these defensemen on the Penguins blue line. You're talking about acquiring Wi-Fi. What would it take to put him on the market? I'm not even answering that. Come on, Cal. But I'll give you a rebound here. Pickering surprised me. He looked better than I expected, much better than I expected. Full on stop. I wasn't crazy about him even in development camp in early July, but the progress from then to now has been stark. And I even told him that. I said, Owen, I don't know that I've seen a draft pick, especially a first rounder, make such progress in a couple of years, or even, the short period of time since the end of last season to now. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone take such strides. And I kind of I don't know if I'm going to have to drive to Wilkes-Barre to say hi to you anymore. And he's like, I hope so. That kid's a talker. we could use a few more of those in the Penguins locker room for sure. All right, Michael comes back at us. I know it's only preseason. You guys can't use these little text abbreviations. You got to spell out the words because I'm reading it. It's only preseason, but Gino looks fantastic, way better so far than he has in the last couple of years. I would agree. Michael, I would wholeheartedly agree. That spinning backhand Let me check my notes here. What time was that spinning backhand? No, I didn't write down the time. It was right before the Penguins power play at 6:30. So it was ridiculous. I mean, he just absolutely disposed of the Red Wings defender. And I don't recall if it was McGroarty or Raquel. No, it was Bunting. It was Michael Bunting on the doorstep. That was difficult last night, telling McGroarty from Bunting just at first glance, because the 8 and the 2, the way they get stuffed into the back of the pants there, it was, it was tough to see. And you're like, oh, that's clearly Bunting, the way he's skating or playing. But yeah, Bunting on the doorstep almost slammed it through. I think it was Casa in net. But yes, Malkin is moving well. He's lighter. He's lighter on his feet. He's not lumbering like he did last year. Listen, this is Penguins related, but it's going in an entirely different direction. There's a vibe around this team this year. It's entirely positive. It's entirely fresh, vibrant, new. I think they're getting a little bit excited on the inside of that locker room. I do. I genuinely think last year, this was not the case. Last year, it was about the frustrations and getting over that and, this or that. And Malkin saying 2 more years. Malkin admitting early in the season he couldn't do what he used to be able to do. And Karlsson kind of EK65 was certainly I don't know how to describe what his arrival did to the locker room. Everyone liked him. No question. Listen, there was no problems, but he's different. He's his own guy, and I don't know, upset the chemistry would be the wrong word, but it certainly challenged the chemistry, and somebody tried to describe it. We were trying to figure out the right analogy the other day, and it's like you have that one kid. You have 3 or 4 kids as a family. You have that one kid who just needs more attention, who's just a little bit different, doing the crazy stuff. Like, why can't you behave like everybody else? That's kind of Erik Karlsson. He's just, it was a little bit disruptive. And I don't think they ever really got it on track between Todd Reirden and Erik Karlsson. I don't think those two were ever rowing in the same boat at full steam and for all of that. And, and it's different this year. There isn't that carryover negativity, even though they missed the playoffs because it ended so well last year. I think that steam cleaned the carpet in the locker room. And yes, Malkin would be a prime example. Yeah, I thought Graves would show better so far. Meh. I am going to. I asked Mike Sullivan, and we kind of. It wasn't I think a lot of you have seen the videos with Sullivan, and he's up there at the podium. His answers are much different than when we're all standing there in the locker room, kind of having the same post-skate chat. And I said, what do you need from Ryan Graves? What do you want to see? What's actually, I think the exact question was, what to be successful, what does his game look like? That's kind of using like Sullivan's own verbiage, back to him. So he always says, his best game is when, to be successful, he has to, when he's successful, he's doing these things. And that's kind of the way I phrased it to Sullivan. And I got a checklist of things they want to see from Ryan Graves. I must confess, without going back and doing some video work, because it's been frustrating. There have been no photos of these games. The AP, photographers aren't covering NHL preseason. The videos have been like from the website with no broadcasters. Like last night, I guess Joe was on the call, but in the other games, the video has been terrible, and it's been difficult to zone in or hone in on Graves. If I'm gonna have to maybe check my Hulu account to see if the streams are on there, and I can literally go in and start to see, go down the checklist. But before I do that, I'm going to publish the checklist for you. And I also talked to Ryan Graves, and here is an interesting thing I noticed with a lot of Penguins players. This is kind of why Mike Sullivan has such buy-in from the players. Graves went down the list almost verbatim in the same order, same words as did Sullivan, which means the head coach sat him down and they said X, Y, and Z, and then A and B. That's what we want you to do. And so when I ask the player, what should you be doing? What do you want to do? And he just goes right down the list. That's probably a good sign for the coaches. Why not trade? You know what? You've spelled it phonetically, Josh. So I will not. I won't hammer you. Why not trade Grzelcyk? Well, because Grzelcyk looks pretty good. Last night the veterans were not on their toes on Tuesday night. That's fair to say. The veterans were getting some work in. They picked their spots, but they were not playing with regular season intensity. Grzelcyk is absolutely necessary as the mobile left side defenseman. Pettersson's the stay-at-home guy. Grzelcyk is he's also running the second power play right now, but he's looked really good. He and Letang on the same pairing might be a dynamic aspect that the Penguins have been kind of missing, kind of like P.O. Joseph was supposed to be. Grzelcyk, I think, will be there. Oh, look at Jay using the coaches' nicknames for people already. With Lizzo, that's Blake Lizotte, being diagnosed with a concussion, do any young players get a spot who otherwise would not? That will be very interesting because we got this guy, Rutger McGroarty. McGroarty has fallen behind a lot of the other veterans. He was in the second group at training camp over the past week, which means you're with the AHL guys. Jesse Puljujärvi was in group one. If you read my post game last night, I'm guessing you didn't, Jay. No, actually, it was. I can tell you all don't really care about the post game analysis. You're looking for a couple players, and that's and I get it. I try to cater to you in my post game columns just by outlining or identifying those players and how they played. Yeah, with McGroarty, he's the guy that would step in. The thing is, Cody Glass represents a very interesting situation. I don't think he's done anything out of the ordinary with the Penguins, which fits with his scouting report, that he's not anything out of the ordinary. He's not an out of the ordinary skater. He's not, he's not physical. He's not an out of the ordinary scorer. He kind of just is in that situation. I don't know. Before Lizotte got hurt, before we knew he was going to be out for probably a week or 2 weeks, I thought Cody Glass's spot was in trouble because I could easily see them keeping McGroarty and Puljujärvi and sending Cody Glass down to the AHL because McGroarty's talent is significantly higher than Cody Glass's. And to keep a player with that talent and to let him sort of matriculate at the NHL level, well, that's got to be tempting for everybody involved. But Lizotte being a center, the question is, do you slide Achari over to center? And then you make your fourth line Puljujärvi and McGroarty or whomever. The other guy that they might keep around for an extra week would be Valtteri Puustinen to avoid sending him through waivers. That might be something to keep an eye on, depending on how severe Lizotte's concussion is. They don't really tell you, oh, it's grade 1, grade 2. They just say a concussion. If this is something serious that could linger for weeks or so, then I think you start looking for, Sam Poulin might be the next center up, or Jonathan Gruden. Now, knowing Mike Sullivan, I think he would go back to Achari at. No, I take that back, because Kevin Hayes would probably slot in at center at third line. They'd move Eller to the fourth line. That's how that would work. But McGroarty would be the primary beneficiary if Lizotte is out. Okay, why not trade Grzelcyk to make room for Pickering? Josh. Okay, we already answered that one, right? Yeah. Tip of the iceberg. Seriously, if you have to choose between me and Tip of the Iceberg podcast, I might have to use the cattle prod on you. Professionals, seriously, come on. That's almost a little bit insulting, Jay. 19 and 72, not impressed. Really? You're not impressed with Anthony Beauvillier? He is earning some praise internally. He has made the Crosby line. He's got a little something. He has been much better than advertised. Me and Tip of the Iceberg pod. Come on. They use my work, for gosh sakes. You can have the real thing or the imitation. You can have the people in the locker room giving you the real stuff, or the people telling you I'm in the locker room giving you the real stuff. Anyway, no, Beauvillier has been faster than advertised. He's been mixing it up in the corner or, near the net. He's been really good. I'm not sure what you're not seeing from Beauvillier, but the chatter amongst us chattering class has been quite positive on AB there. All right, let me get McGroarty off the screen. Pickering's game reminds me of John Marino a little bit. I think Brunicke reminds me more of Marino, even though I guess Brunicke and Marino both right-handed. Marino as a rookie was better than Marino as a sophomore or junior with the Penguins. He just had a spark and a magic in his rookie year that I think I haven't watched his game recently. I haven't zoned in on him or had a reason to. He was just momentum in that first year. Everything was just magical. Everything just clicked, and he was on the ice. It was all perfect. He wasn't able to recapture that in a couple of subsequent years with the Penguins. Listen, that's the difficult part, right? You start thinking about it. How did I do that so well? Or what can I do better? And you begin to, change some things. And sometimes you change things you shouldn't have changed. I'm trying to think of, because Pickering can battle by the net, and he's a little bigger than you think. He's getting a lot stronger than he used to be. I don't know that the Penguins have had a big all-round defenseman in a long, long time. Honest to goodness. I'm scouring the Stanley Cup teams. He's not quite as physical as Ian Cole was. He might be kind of an Owen Pickering type, a guy who can skate up with the rush and then come back and move somebody from the net. I mean, there really is that potential with the kid. And I understand if they send him down to Wilkes-Barre to get a little more seasoning, but he's making a case. And he's starting to, here's the important thing. Pickering's starting to believe that he belongs. It's like the Matrix. No, he's beginning to believe. All right. Brittany McPhee, week to week for Ned. Is that like a month? It could be. Who knows? Week to week means we'll tell you again in a week. That's really what it means in hockey. I mean, in the last handful of years, I can think of a lot of the times the Penguins have said week to week. It was like 10 days, 2 weeks. But then, you never know when it's a 6-week deal. You just, especially a goaltender. I posted the video both on Twitter and on the website when Nedeljkovic kind of went down. He grabbed, kind of grabbed his midsection. Yeah, that's probably not a good sign. So it's probably not just 1 week. But again, lazy rabbit, I'm not going to argue with you. But yeah, it can be scary for a goalie. Okay, I know it could end up being nothing, but Ponomarev's injury, might this shake up the call-ups? He's day-to-day. Ponomarev is day-to-day. And Ponomarev, I don't think, was going to make the team. Like we were talking about McGroarty being in Group 2, so was Ponomarev. I wonder if Ponomarev has more to give. Because right now, I'll be honest, Ponomarev and Jonathan Gruden were very similar players. Maybe Ponomarev was a little more reckless. I mean that in a good way. A little more reckless abandon than Gruden. But Gruden might be a step faster, a little more experienced, a little more well-rounded in parts of his game. I don't know. I began to feel like in training camp, Ponomarev was becoming one-dimensional. Very defensive, very go get the puck, taking away a lot of aspects of his game that I expected to see. And I kind of felt like he was that way in the Prospects Challenge too, where he was just being a puck hound and not really participating in the play at large. So I don't know that Ponomarev was going to be the first call-up, to be honest. Okay, Michael comes back for the hat trick. In your opinion, what's the biggest Penguins' weakness? In Michael's opinion, he says, I don't think it's in net. I think it's the wing position. Oh, if you're talking just positions, what's their biggest weakness? Let's see here. On the left wing, they're probably, listen, the left wing, they're going to be the weakest with, Michael Bunting, legit 25 goal guy. But after that, you do have Beauvillier. I think you're going to have Kevin Hayes. By the way, I've liked Kevin Hayes a great deal. He is a really shifty playmaker. Like he's a bit of a maestro out there, finding seams and getting. He's not going to wow you on the highlight reel, but the little plays he's making and the sharp little passes to spring greater opportunities, don't overlook that. And then who's been on the left wing on the fourth line? It's been kind of a mix. Drew O'Connor spent some time there. Beauvillier spent some time there. Drew O'Connor, I guess, will be the other left winger. I like him a lot. There isn't a glaring weakness with the Penguins. I'm not a Jari hater like I know a lot of fans are. I think Jari, from what we've been told, really hit the gym over the summer. Like last year, he had to get over the back injury, kind of came into camp right ready to go. It took him a while to get over that back injury so that he could get into shape. This year, I think he had all summer to just hit it and hit it hard. If his conditioning is significantly better, he doesn't wear out in February and March. And don't forget about the 2-week break for the Four Nations tournament. Jari, I don't see any problem there. Although, without Nedeljkovic, now who backs him up? We wanted to talk about that. So let's, let me see if I can pull up something here, just so you don't have to look at my ugly mug. Okay, here, we'll share screen for a moment. And there we go. Okay. So let me get rid of Michael's comment there. That's Alex Nedeljkovic. That's not the play he got hurt on. That's a photo from last year. Interesting, because I think Philip Larson has outplayed Joel Blomqvist in camp in the preseason. Larson, I think, has opened the coach's eyes to what he can do. He's got a bit of Matt Murray, like younger Matt Murray in him, where there's a certain assertiveness when he's in the net. Can't describe it, you can't really quantify it in any sort of way, but there just is a certain je ne sais quoi when Larson is in the cage that Blomqvist doesn't have. Now, that might come with time. Like, listen, Larson washed out of North American pro hockey pretty quickly. The Red Wings drafted him in the 6th round. Not long after that, he was, in camp, and they sent him to the ECHL. He lasted 10 games and said, "Screw you guys, I'm going home." Went back to Sweden, where he floundered for a couple of years in Sweden too. He is, is he 25 or 26? Is Philip Larson. It wasn't until last year that he had his breakout year with a 921, I think, 921 save percentage in the Swedish Elite League. Now, they have a higher save, you don't score as much in the Swedish League. I've liked him better. It will be interesting to me to see how the goalie dominoes fall. I very much could see Larson backing up Tristan Jarry while Blomqvist plays through. And you keep Sergei Murashov in Wheeling, or do you move Murashov to Wheeling, or to Wilkes-Barre to get some starts and get some game time in the AHL while they have the opportunity? Because otherwise, as soon as Nedeljkovic comes back, Larson goes to the AHL with Blomqvist. And if Larson's outplaying Blomqvist, now you've got this really weird, awkward dynamic where you've got a direct competition to get to the NHL. I don't know if I like that sort of dynamic in the room. I'm a little bit, I would much rather see Blomqvist have a support system than a competition. But then again, they might know him a lot better than I do, and they're like, this guy needs to be pushed. And so that would be Larson. Okay, let's see here. Brittany wants to know my thoughts on Jarry this preseason. Listen, he gave up a breakaway goal last night. It happens. That was really his first real action last night. Even then, he didn't face a whole lot of shots. I'm not prepared to make any judgments. Again, the veterans weren't getting after it last night. They weren't playing their A game. They were playing their, let's get in game shape, let's get ready. Let's see here. Sully did a lot of he's incredible, but while talking about Brunicke and the huge jump to the NHL that awaits, does Brunicke see any, or does Brunicke, sorry, I'm breaking a bad habit. Sullivan calls him Brunicke too. I think he started the last day or so calling him Brunicke. Do I see any NHL games this season, or does he marinate? Okay, good point to bring up. Brunicke cannot play in the AHL this season. Can't. Ineligible. That stupid CHL transfer rule, because I think his birthday is like November of 2025, whereas Tanner Howe can turn pro next season. Brunicke has to play 2 seasons in the WHL unless he's in the NHL. He can't stop in the AHL for 2 years. So dumb, but whatever. The Canadians believe it's important. The Canadian junior hockey mafia will not budge on that. I mean, really, 1 year should be the max. After one year after your draft, no matter when your birthday is, you should be allowed to play in the AHL. In fact, there should be some exceptions even to that rule, like a Braden Yeager. very much could have benefited from playing in the AHL. I firmly believe that. But Winnipeg just sent Braden Yeager back to Moose Jaw as well. He should be allowed to play in the AHL. There's nothing more he's going to learn or gain playing in Moose Jaw. But the little town of Moose Jaw needs Braden Yeager to sell tickets and do all of that. And they want their Memorial Cup to be the best players. And that is junior hockey taking precedent over the players and the old guard, the system. Got me off on an unexpected rant there, didn't you? But anyway, Brunicke can't play in the AHL this year. Matt Murray, belly flopping and no puck stop. You guys hate on everybody. All right, so I guess we've come to the end of that roll of questions. Boy, we've done 45 minutes, and I feel like I haven't even taken a breath or taken a break yet. So thank you. Thank you for keeping those coming. I'm actually going to have to use my hands. Let me see if I can pull up a highlight on NHL.com to show you just what the Penguins, when the Penguins scored a power play goal against Ottawa. Did they not? Yes, they did. So I'm going to show you kind of what they're doing. All right, that's Crosby's goal, even strength. Evgeny Malkin, here we go. Hopefully I still get paid for this if I use this highlight. Stream.
Tied up along the boards. Russ gets it free. Malkin. Off the stick, scores. Well, that's a straight
All right, let me see here. Okay. Show you the setup. It's a little bit blurry. Okay, here's a prime example. Look at the Penguins power play right there. Two guys down low, and now you've got a third stick between the dots. This is what the Penguins power play has done significantly different. One of the three things anyway. Getting more sticks around the net causes traffic, creates chaos. Anytime you get Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin playing with the puck where they're directly challenging the penalty killers instead of the penalty killers challenging Malkin and Crosby, you're going to have a good time. Now the PK has to make decisions. Now that, and you don't always make the right decision in that split second. That creates open ice. That creates open men. Let me jump back here and I'll hit play.
Crosby down low.
Doing that.
There's Raquel.
So they're keeping it low.
Tied up along the board. Russ gets it free.
From the point back to the wall position. Right? And that was so different from last year. Last year, the point man would stop it, would look, would survey, would control the power play from the point. Now Chris Letang is intentionally moving it. It's on his stick and it is gone. What you want to see are the mid walls crashing to the net, pressuring the PK. Look to the left of the screen there. There's Rickard Rakell going to the net. He's actually ahead of his defender. I think that's Drake Batherson, but whomever it might be. See, there's Rakell. Now you've got two players at the net. You cycle around. You have three players up top, two down low where the puck is going. So that is how a competent power play should look. And I hope you kind of, hopefully I was able to explain it in somewhat layman's terms, what is so much different. Last year, they would have a guy stationed there, and that was his station. Right? He might cycle to the wall, and then the next person would come to the net. It was linear. It was predictable, perfunctory, boring, ineffective, awful. And I could probably keep going on with a string and a slew of insults and words for the Penguins' power play. But you can see what is so much different. All right, so last two here. We're going to go to Cal. Wait, not Cal. Michael's going to come back for the Grand Slam here, the fourth one. If Raquel struggles this year and we have to move him down the lines, who would you like to see take his spot on the second line? if the Penguins need that's going to be an interesting question. A bit of that depends on where Beauvillier and O'Connor wind up. Obviously, I think Drew O'Connor would be the first guy in. If they, otherwise, if it's not Drew O'Connor, otherwise it's probably Rutger McGroarty. He would be the only player with legit top 6 chops who would score some goals. And the final question. Dun, dun, dun. You like the sound effects? So, by the way, a musician friend of mine is in a local band, sent me a 15-second guitar riff. I will be making a lovely new intro once we begin. I guess next week is the regular season already. So I will have the goodies prepared for you next weekend. Okay, Brittany says, I loved Murray when he was with the Penguins. After his father passed away, his play really decreased and the injuries ruined his career. He is making a comeback with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I've heard good things about him in camp. He still has a way to go to get over that hip surgery. I think he had it in November. But you saw how long it took Jesse Puljujärvi to get over the double hip surgery. I can't imagine how long it's going to take a goaltender. You might not see anything resembling the real Matt Murray until February or March. Or actually, you know what? Depending on the severity of it, even later than that. But yes, some people didn't get along with Murray. I enjoyed his surliness, straight up. In fact, I should probably tell you the story about the locker room and me yesterday. I enjoyed Murray's candid surliness. Because I think they had, there was a thing a few years ago where they had this odd schedule. Did they play like 4 games in 5 nights a few years ago? Something stupid like that, 4 and 6 or 5 and 7, whatever it was. And I was like, how does that wear on? That's a lot of traveling. And he's like, we're staying in the best hotels. They feed us. It's not that bad. I was like, well, fair enough. Now, me, on the other hand, I'm staying at the Motel 8 looking for a gas station for a sandwich, or I get bored and I break my rule and I wander into a bar to eat. And you wander into a bar on the road, you're sitting there by yourself. 1 Jack ain't enough. You better make it 3. 1 bourbon, 1 scotch, and then 1 beer. In the locker room yesterday. So the Penguins have this here. I'll tell this story. This is kind of the awkward part of my job, and there's no way around it. The Penguins still have too many players. They still have a football team size roster today. So they've got the auxiliary locker room. Guys like, Mark Johnstone and Yanni Kapanen. Who else was in there? Jimmy Huntington. And so Owen Pickering and Harrison Brunicke come off with, the pregame group. They had the morning skate. They go over into the auxiliary room. So there's about 6 of them in there. In this, kind of the small side locker room that they would give to a men's league. And I kind of come bouncing in, look at Owen Pickering, who's sitting there just as I walk in to my left. I'm like, I came to talk to you. And I just out of the corner of my eye, I catch Brunicke, who's sitting there kind of by himself, just to do one of these. I felt so terrible. Like I had the same, I would have, you're interviewing now this guy in front of everybody. His teammates are going to rib him. And you're asking him about himself in front of 5 of his teammates who have nothing else to do but watch the interview. And it's a small enough room where even if I were being quiet, they're going to hear. They're going to hear his answer. They're going to hear my questions. And so at this point, they're all now kind of like leaning in, watching the interview. And I feel so bad because I'm asking Pickering the same questions I would ask Brunicke. Brunicke's now 5 feet away, kind of feeling completely left out, like he's chopped liver. So I just finish up with the interview with Pickering, and then Mark Johnstone starts chirping us. It's like, great answers, great answers. I'm like, what about the questions? I did want to talk to Brunicke, but I'm going to go over and ask him the same 4 questions. So, I just joked with the guys and got about my way, wrote that story. In fact, it's still on Pittsburgh Hockey Now. It's part of the PHN Plus for our subscribers. It is exclusive. If you want to subscribe, here is the story. Use the coupon code DAN10, and that will save you $10. I think it's a pretty good story right there. I enjoyed writing it. And when I enjoy writing it, usually I like to think it's, I was able to add a little more than I ordinarily have space or time to do. And I kind of gave you everything about Pickering and Brunicke, because Sullivan also gave me a wonderful answer on those 2. Just absolutely kind of opened the vault and said, all right, here you go. Here's what I'm seeing with those 2 guys. And lo and behold, Brunicke just goes out and has a heck of a hockey game. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate yins very much. Get those questions coming for next week. I am going to try to post this on the podcast platform. I will put that link on the website. Some of you said you've been trying to listen to YouTube in your car, and I feel bad for that. So I will put this chat, the audio version, in podcast form. It'll be on all of the platforms. I will put that on the website tomorrow as part of Dan's Daily. So I'll tell you what we named the podcast. And I think I'll go back to No Pucks Given. That was the podcast a few years ago, actually like 5 or 6 years ago. It was called No Pucks Given. I think I'm going to go back to that name, and we'll make our podcast that. And you'll be able to actually just download the audio if you couldn't make it live. That's it. I'm done. I'm out. That's the news, and I am out of here.